Rock bolting as a competition was born at the Toronto Trade Fair some years ago. Since then, it's grown into one of the more popular sports where coal miners test their specialised skills. At a time when morale in the coal industry is low, a win by a local team in the World Rock Bolting Championships in Tasmania would be most welcome. And these are a few of the men on whose shoulders those local hopes will be riding. They include the first ever team from a BHP mine. These boys will be representing Lambton Colliery. However, the team of Jeff Craft and John Bridge from Myuna Colliery are expected to be the team to beat. They already hold 2 national titles but missed out on one last year. They're ready to avenge that loss and bring the world title home to the hunter.
Yeah, you've got to practice. You've got to get cohesion going between the two of you, and that's about the whole essence of it, you know.
Have proved over here that we're pretty good at it, so hopefully we're all right over there against the best in the world.
I believe that teamwork really is the essence of good rock.
Photo.
Joe Greentree is 24 years old and a fan of the races. After riding a number of winners at country tracks, his career as an apprentice jockey came to an untimely end. 14 months ago, while doing track work at Cessnock, his mount broke a hind leg, toppling on top of the young rider. He was rushed by rescue helicopter to the intensive care unit at Royal Newcastle Hospital, suffering a fractured skull, 3 inoperable blood clots and a damaged brain stem. After 10 days on a life support system, the hospital decided to turn off the machine. Joe's family was given little reason for hope.
When he was in the intensive care unit at Newcastle, they said there was no hope for Joe.
What happened? I believe a nursing sister took you outside the ward and tried to console you.
Well, this was some weeks after the accident, John. She said that that it was a fact that Joe was going to die, and that as far as she was concerned, that was just the body lying in there.
Kevin says it was almost 5 months after the accident before his son got the kind of treatment he needed. He says his son responded just hours after controversial arousal therapy.
We did accept the fact that Joe was seriously hurt, and we accepted the fact that he could die. We were shocked, but they were intended to turn the machine off.
How long was it, in your opinion, before Joe got the kind of treatment you think he deserved?
Oh, 5 months, John.
What do you think would have happened had he not received that attention?
He would have become a vegetable. He would have been a vegetable all his life.
This experience has made Kevin Greentree very concerned about other cases where patients may be taken off life support systems and where active treatment has ceased.
You should not give up, not until they breathe the last breath.
"75 workers at the terminal have been on strike over negotiations for the 4% second-tier wage rise. Agreements negotiated between the Grain Handling Authority and union delegates have been rejected 3 times by the rank and file. The men were ordered back to work on Tuesday by Justice Sweeney of the State Industrial Commission. Meanwhile, 24 workers at the Caltex oil terminal at Wickham will have the chance today to reapply for their jobs with a new company. Caltex has handed over its fuel distribution to a private contractor, the Linfox Group, and dismissed the workers as a result. It's believed some of the drivers and mechanics may take redundancy packages rather than start again with the new operation.
At a time when a good price has never been more important, New England wool growers can't be happier with the Series 6 sale. The designated superfine sale saw customers reacting as they have been at wool sales across the country. The fickle fine wool market, so dependent on seasonal variation in world prices, was booming. 35,000 bales went under the hammer, earning over $60 million, or roughly twice the cheque for last year. The weaker dollar has much to do with the success, despite fears among some growers that higher prices will force mills to look towards synthetics. The Wool Corporation's low surplus has also helped wool keep a true value, and one that seems likely to remain for some time. Farmers Grascross wool manager Michael Hogg says new marketing strategies have helped push the product along.
The fashion has gone for new cool wool, and we've noticed over the last couple of years that 19 micron wools and finer have really been selling extreme in the marketplace.
Well, it's not just coincidence, is it? You've actually gone out of your way to sell this kind of wool.
Yes, the Australian Wool Corporation have been overseas quite a lot and selling the new cool wool, whereas once wool was only sort of a fabric to be worn in winter. Now it's a fabric that can also be sold in summer.
Among the world's top growers at the auction, third generation fine wool grower Sperry Coventry. He donated proceeds from one of his 2,400 bale clip to the Red Cross. The bale fetched 10,060 cents, a typical price. He said prices had levelled a little since the first days of the sale.
Oh, well, I suppose they began to realise that it's getting, really extreme, and I suppose they've got to ease back a bit.
As it turned out, the final day saw the highest prices in the week. Although only 4% of the world's fabrics are wool, Australian sales this year, including the fine wool sales to fashion houses in France, Italy and Japan, will earn $5 billion, putting wool back as the country's biggest single export earner. Gary Ian Moore of Waratah West appeared in Newcastle court this morning, charged with the manslaughter of his de facto wife's baby. It's alleged Moore had an argument last night with Karen Prigmore, a woman with whom he'd been sharing the house on Leonora Parade for the past 12 months. During the incident, he allegedly caused a fridge to fall, crushing the infant beneath. Moore attempted resuscitation on the girl before an ambulance arrived, transporting her to Mater Hospital. She was pronounced dead at 2:45 this morning. The victim's mother has two other children, aged 2 and 3. None of the children were directly related to Moore. He will reappear in Newcastle court on Tuesday. Lake Macquarie's big Bicentennial clean-up starts on Sunday when an estimated 20,000 people wade into the water to do their bit to clean the lake. But today, the clean-up committee invited local government leaders and the media to see just how it's going to be done.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
In NBN's Hour of News tonight, Australians may yet strike Olympic gold. Not at Calgary, but in the Skill Olympics being held in Sydney, where the cream of the world's young workers are vying for top honours.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
These two I give the full credit to for enlisting my help to establish it. and I think this something should have been done 100 years ago, and the artefacts we've been able to collect in that last 15 or 16.
The huge turnout to the public rally is a clear indication that the gun law debate is one of the most contentious election issues. Men, women and children packed the Cessnock sports ground, travelling from throughout the valley to attend. The meeting was organised by a group of recreational shooters who claim efforts to obtain detailed information about the new laws have proved fruitless. They claim residents of Cessnock have also expressed concern and confusion about the changes. Every sitting member from the Lower Hunter was invited, along with candidates for local seats. A delegation from the police force also attended, including the District Inspector Kane. Key speakers made brief statements, many condemning the move to restrict gun ownership. After listening to the debate, the hundreds of people present approved a number of resolutions. The Unsworth government's gun laws were condemned. The meeting called for an extension of the current amnesty until after the state election result is known. A deputation will lobby the Police Minister Pachulo, and voters were urged to express their dissatisfaction at the ballot box. The meeting tonight will be held at the Multi-Purpose Centre at Scone High School.
Right, I will. Sorry.
About midnight last night, while two police were inside processing a drink driving charge, outside Raymond Terrace Police Station, someone was removing property from a patrol car. The robber, or robbers, nimbly removed not only the highly visible head of the KR-11 radar unit wedged in the back window, but also the computer component inside.
A little bit embarrassing, but these things can happen anywhere, so we've got to take it in that light and just treat it as a normal crime.
A wide search, which included an extensive door knock and police patrols, failed to locate the radar unit until late this afternoon, when an anonymous phone call gave police the breakthrough they needed. The unit was dumped in a white plastic bag on the corner of Nobles Road and Raymond Terrace Road. Attached was a typewritten note which read, "Dear Mr. Policeman, if only radars could talk, what a story this one would tell. Sorry for the trouble caused, from a shamed citizen."
Well, the fear was that they could have used it, acting as policemen, pulling people up and stating that they would be fined on the spot. Even if they gave them a receipt, they would be receiving money on the spot.
You must be able to see the funny side of the incident, though.
Oh, you've got to. You've got to. If you don't, you cry.
Never in the history of the National Basketball League has Newcastle ever beaten the 36ers. 2 seasons ago, Adelaide took the championship under the Falcons coach Ken Cole. Cole knows the Adelaide team well and believes if the Falcons get up tomorrow night, the rest of the league will then rate Newcastle as a definite possibility of making it to the finals.
Well, I think we're well prepared for it. It's been a good week's training. Everybody's looking sharp, and we realise that this is maybe the most important game Newcastle have played in recent years, so everybody's fired up and ready to do well.
You say the 36ers are the best overall talent of any side. Where can you beat them?
I think we've got the talent to well and truly match up. As a matter of fact, I think we've got the spread of talent that'll cause them problems. And I think we're a better team. I think we're playing better as a team than Adelaide are. I think they've still got an outstanding group of individuals, but I don't think they're playing anywhere near as well as a team anymore.
Mike Cole is the most successful coach ever in the NBL. Despite taking Adelaide to the 1986 title, he was sacked for admitting to smoking marijuana. He says, however, the victory over Adelaide would not be sweet revenge for his dismissal.
No, I know the players too well, and they're all good friends and have been for now 4 or 5 years and some longer than that. So, but this will be the breaking of the ties, I'm sure, because this is my team for quite a few years to come, and we've got to come out now and establish our ascendancy over teams like Adelaide.
The New South Wales Farmers Association has fired the first shot in what it says will be a protracted campaign against waterfront unions. They've demanded an unconditional 50% cut in handling costs, and they say they have the power to achieve it.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Health Minister Peter Anderson was in Newcastle today to officially open 2 refurbished oncology wards at the Mater Hospital. During his visit, he also announced the approval of a cardiac surgery unit to be based at the new Rankin Park Teaching Hospital.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
It was a hectic schedule for Mr Anderson, visiting a total of 6 of the area's health centres throughout the day. First stop was the Mater Hospital, where the Minister officially opened 2 refurbished wards of the oncology unit. At a cost of $1.2 million, 12 rooms have been designed for the comfort of cancer patients undergoing treatment, as well as providing comfortable sitting areas for visiting relatives. Hot on the election campaign, with the date expected to be announced early next week, Mr Anderson made some important announcements about the future expansion of the Mater Hospital.
There have been requests for money to fit out level 3 of the Med 2 or the Clinical Services building, and I was able to announce the $2.6 million to do that. 2 other projects, the accommodation for the CT scanner and the villas, required some additional funds to complete those, and $234,000 have been made available to do that as well.
Then it was on to the Royal Newcastle Hospital to open the $1.5 million cardiac catheterisation laboratory, the only one of its kind in a public hospital outside Sydney. The unit allows patients to undergo cardiac diagnosis examinations locally. The Minister announced open heart surgery facilities will also be available here in the Hunter when the Rankin Park Hospital is completed in 1991.
The Rankin Park Hospital is a major teaching hospital which is costing $160 million. It will be of such a unique and special character because it's so modern and technologically advanced that that's the appropriate place to be doing the level of surgery we're talking about.
On another local issue, Mr Anderson says the government's 8-year plan to overhaul the state's mental health system will not result in the loss of jobs at Morisset Hospital. He says misinformation has been spread about the release of mentally disabled patients into the community.
Nobody should be released into the community who is a danger to themselves or to others, and I have an expert committee meeting at the moment to formulate amendments which will go through in the next session. This is not about letting dangerous people out into the community. It's about giving human beings the opportunity to achieve their full human potential.
This week's strike action by the AWU at Newcastle's grain handling terminal demonstrated the GHA's tough approach to the waterfront. Grain could still be moved from other ports, so the GHA was able to sit tight. With their bargaining power eroded, the AWU returned to work. Now the Farmers Association says it wants a similar response from the Maritime Services Board to unions in its province. Grains manager Don Wilkinson says he recognises dramatic improvements in MSB management, but he says he still thinks they can achieve a 50% reduction in wharf charges.
This request is perfectly reasonable. New South Wales growers are charged $1.78 per tonne. In Queensland, they're now charged 99 cents per tonne, and in Western Australia 41 cents per tonne, so that New South Wales growers are already paying 4 times what their colleagues in Western Australia are paying for the same service.
Mr Wilkinson says documents leaked from the MSB detail almost 100 restrictive work practices resulting in the highest wharf charges in the country. The National Farmers Federation is supporting the New South Wales farmers by seeking legal advice to pursue the cause, and with a fighting fund of over $15 million, it's ready for a long battle.
I don't believe that we're going to win overnight, that it could take some years. before we're successful. But unless we are successful, every Australian is going to have a reduced standard of living.
Now, the waterfront itself has been
Amongst the locals expected to shine this weekend is David Rundle, the 19-year-old Australian junior representative competing in the under-20 division. Last week won the 5-kilometre event, and this weekend will run in the 1500 final and is favoured to win the steeplechase. Teammate Patrick Harris, former Australian All-Schools champion, was third in the 5K last week, and like David, is running in the 1500 and steeplechase. 19-year-old javelin thrower David Bignell is not 100% fit. Although suffering an elbow injury, he still managed to finish fourth in the under-20 event last weekend, and tomorrow competes in the open javelin. Cessnock has made his way into the final of the under-20 100-metre sprint and will also be competing in the under-20 and open long jump events. In hurdling, Joanne Bauer is one of the best and is favoured to win the under-20 100-metre hurdles. Youngest of Newcastle's best chances for gold medals is Fiona McCarthy. Last week, Fiona was second in the under-16 800 metres, and this weekend will run in the 400-metre final. Newcastle has plenty of depth in the junior ranks, with most of our top open athletes moving to Sydney. An exception is Olympic finalist and mother of three, Linda Garden, who is making a comeback and will be competing in the open long jump.
Troy Close of Weston bought this shining gold Ford Falcon almost 12 months ago from one of the most established dealers in the Hunter Valley, Highway Ford at Rutherford. Although he initially took out finance, he paid off his vehicle in cash a few months later. So you can imagine his surprise when two repossession agents arrived on his doorstep yesterday to tell him that he was in possession of an encumbered vehicle. Troy was not alone. The agents were out looking for about 30 vehicles in the Hunter Valley. In some cases, police were called, but they backed up that the repossession agents had a legitimate case. The bulk of the cars had been bought from Highway Ford, which had bought them from a company called Hunter Valley Car Rentals. Ken Guy from Highway Ford is most adamant that they had absolutely no idea that the finance was owing on the vehicles.
It's just a normal business process. The rent-a-car people, they buy cars off of us and then we buy the cars off them, pay them for it, which all these vehicles involved, the complaints that you've had, we've actually paid and bought those vehicles in good faith and sold them in good faith. The whole lot of people buying them are protected under the law because they've then got a statutory warranty provisions that, of course, also Consumer Affairs looks after them in the event that the dealer's unable to meet their payments.
tonight's NBN News, the staple of life as you've never seen it. Bakeries and hot bread shops today took part in the annual Newcastle Bread Show, producing uplifting loaves to make your mouth water.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6. Instead, the triangular block will be developed over the next few years for 3 different healthcare purposes. Already approved and out to tender is a new renal dialysis care unit, which at present is housed on the 7th floor of the Royal Newcastle Hospital. The $500,000 facility is expected to be completed by October of this year on the southeastern corner of the land. Health Service Chief Dr Owen James is keen to have the kidney treatment unit moved out of the Royal.
Well, the facility is for those people who can't actually look after themselves well enough at home, but who don't need the service.